It is 1:30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. A bomb attack in the Iraqi city of Najaf has killed at least 10 people and wounded 30 others. A car carrying the bomb exploded near the burial place of Imam Ali. The area is one of the holiest places for Shiite Muslims. American officials condemned the attack. The State Department said those responsible for the violence are the enemies of all faiths and of all humanity. Also Thursday, a bomb explosion in Baghdad killed a policeman. Earlier, the United States military announced the capture of a man suspected of kidnapping an Italian news reporter last year. The man, known as Abu Ayman, is a former official of Iraq's intelligence service. In the United States, former New York City Mayor Rudolph Giuliani has spoken at the sentencing trial of Zakaria Moussaoui. He is the only person charged in connection with the terrorist attacks on the United States on September 11, 2001. Mr. Giuliani gave evidence before a jury that will decide if Moussaoui will be executed or spend the rest of his life in prison. Mr. Giuliani described his shock at seeing people jump from the World Trade Center. Jury members also saw pictures of people falling to their deaths from the burning buildings that had been struck by hijacked airplanes. A former top assistant to the vice president has said President Bush approved the release of intelligence about Iraq before the Iraq War. Louis Scooter Libby made the statement in federal court documents. Mr. Libby reportedly said the president approved giving news reporters intelligence on Iraq. Mr. Libby stated that Vice President Dick Cheney gave him the information. The court documents do not suggest any wrongdoing by the president, but Mr. Bush has repeatedly said he is opposed to the release of secret information. Mr. Libby is being tried on charges related to the release of the name of a worker for the Central Intelligence Agency in 2003. The worker is the wife of a critic of the Bush administration. The head of the United Nations Nuclear Agency is calling on Iran to provide more information about its nuclear program. Mohammed El-Baradei says there are issues that UN inspectors must understand before they can know if Iran's nuclear activities are peaceful. Mr. El-Baradei spoke in Madrid, Spain. On Friday, inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency are expected to arrive in Iran. In related news, the American ambassador to the UN says the United States will seek other methods if the Security Council fails to deal with Iran. John Bolton says those methods include cutting all American business links with Iran. They also include urging America's allies to place travel and financial restrictions on Iran. The United States has decided not to seek a seat on the new United Nations Human Rights Council this year. The State Department says the United States may seek a seat next year. But a spokesman said the United States will provide financial and other support. the United States opposed the creation of the new Human Rights Council. It said the new council did not provide for a way to bar governments with poor human rights records. The State Department said the United States will support candidate nations that support human rights. It said it will also campaign against countries that do not support human rights. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. A Guatemalan opposition lawmaker has been killed near his party's office in the capital, Guatemala City. Officials say Mario Pivaral was shot Thursday as he stepped out of the offices of the National Union for Hope to answer a phone call. Guatemalan President Oscar Bejer said people must wait for the results of the investigation to find out who was responsible. A member of Mr. Pivaral's party, Eduardo Mayer, suggested the killing was political. Also in Guatemala, the government launched a plan to use 2,400 former soldiers to perform police duties. In Venezuela, news reporters have marched in Caracas to demand justice after the killing of a newspaper worker who was shot near a protest. Earlier this week, Jorge Aguirre was shot during protests. Mr. Aguirre took pictures for a newspaper. He was able to take a picture of the person who shot him. The media rights group, Reporters Without Borders, denounced the killing. The group also called for an investigation that would include the security forces. The Brazilian army says soldiers have arrested 2 Colombians suspected of belonging to the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, or FARC. A military spokesman said Thursday the 2 men were on a boat on the Rio Negro River near Brazil's border with Colombia. The men fired on the soldiers. The soldiers later arrested the 2 and sent them to Manaus for questioning by federal police. The military said the men were carrying guns and money from the United States, Europe, and Brazil. United States senators from both parties have announced an agreement in efforts to pass a bill to reform immigration laws. However, the senators offered no details about the agreement. They also warned that possible changes to the bill could end the compromise. Congress will begin a 2-week holiday on Friday. Senators say the bill includes controlling the movement of foreigners into the United States. They say it provides ways for illegal immigrants already in the country to live legally in the United States. And they say the agreement includes a program for temporary foreign workers. Briefly, here again is the major news. A bomb attack in the Iraqi city of Najaf has killed at least 10 people and wounded 30 others. A former top assistant to the vice president has said President Bush approved the release of intelligence about Iraq before the Iraq War. And a Guatemalan opposition lawmaker has been killed near his party's office in the capital, Guatemala City. And that's the news in VOA Special English. From Washington, this is Jim Tedder reporting.